I have a kind of packet of tools on your desk that I want to walk you through. And again, you guys can ask me questions anytime you want. So don't feel like you're stopping me or something. I'll get through this pack. So, in fact, do any of you have any questions thus far? Like questions about my story, how we do stuff, or like how we do preaching? We've done, by the way, we've done live videos also. We didn't do live stream, but we did video venues. We don't currently do any video venues except for like on a campus. Like Carter's campus can't fit all the people, so he has a video venue outside. I have a video venue outside of my campus. So that's how we do it, but we don't do it in the way that is conventional, I guess I would say. Again, Larry Osborne is my mentor, so they're all video venues. And it's kind of how they roll. But before I kind of march through my packet, yeah, Joe?
You spoke about one of your campus guys that is a little Christianese or
yes.
Has a little. How do you address that and deprogram that?
Yeah, I'll repeat the question because we're recording also. So I have a campus pastor, and we all struggle with this, how we speak Christianese, and it doesn't really translate very well to unchurched people. They don't, you have to remember, and again, it's a great thing and a kind of an ironic thing. Most of you, how many of you grew up in church, you grew up saved and all that? Raise your hands. I didn't, but okay. So that's normal, right? Especially in ministry. It's normal that people who become pastors and stuff are like people who grew up in the church, which is wonderful. That's like how we want all of our kids to be, right? I'm just saying it can also be, it's the yin and yang of it. It can be the curse of you as well, in that you are so Christianized, you don't know how to talk, even pray sometimes, and even lead in a certain way, in a way that's not so specifically Christian. So in our process of preaching, for example, in fact, I think I have to use my glasses a little bit. If you guys go to the first page, which is the Newbreak teaching team process, I'm giving you our process. Okay, I'm giving you, now this is years and years of work that we've done to develop this. So let me see if it includes what I'm about to say. Yeah, not really. It does come up in wordsmithing. Look at it, okay? So we develop the sermon ideas. This is a couple of times a year we do this. We pray about what it is we believe the Lord wants us to, speak on from a curriculum perspective, for lack of a better word. And again, I would encourage you to think, God plans things way out. He has the years that you're going to be alive. The days of your life are planned, right? So I would encourage us as speakers and spiritual communities to think ahead, to think longer term, especially from a pedagogic perspective. Of course, if you're really trying to disciple people, you have to pay attention to what I'm saying right now, flat out, legitimately. Otherwise, you'll gravitate toward your favorite places in the Bible. You'll never take on the tough subjects, and you'll really teach I don't know, how should I put, I don't want to put this in too harsh a way. You will teach a partial Christianity. I'm a biblical theologian. That's my jam. I have a lot of education. So I am commissioned by God in Scripture to teach the whole Bible, okay? Like you have to teach the whole Bible, so you've got to figure that out. We tend to be expository in method, not necessarily it's not like we're going to be in John 10 this week and in John 11 next week necessarily. I'm just saying, methodologically, we tend to be expository. We do topical messages, but generally we are expositors in Newbreak, okay? And this is Rick Warren is one of my good friends. I've known Rick for a long time. He's had a profound impact on me. Rick's a straight-up systematic theologian. He preaches always topical, and he's awesome. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying how we are, okay? So we do it a couple of times a year where we plan out the next year. And then we develop, present sermon series. You can see we do this about 16 weeks before the messenger preached. Then we do a sermon series thrashing, where we we really work on kind of the crafting and the hard work of the series itself. We decide whether to move forward with the series. Sometimes we'll just chuck a series because we just feel like it's horrible, and so we thought that was great before, but we don't now. We call it the cutting room floor, so we throw lots of stuff on the cutting room floor. The exegetical packet, that's number 4, is prepared by the team lead. Now, this is a bit dated. We now how many of you use Logos? Logos? Okay. We converted to Logos. When did we do that, Carter? This year, kind of. Yeah, we converted to Logos. So now Lisa runs our sermon team, okay? And let me just back up a second to describe my sermon team. My sermon team is made up of all of my campus pastors, some of our campus directors, which in a normal church would kind of like be an associate pastor role. We call them campus directors. And then in my sermon team, we have, so Lisa runs my sermon team. She leads my sermon team. Lisa she was volunteer. When I started the sermon team, I started with me and this guy, Steve, who's now one of my campus pastors. He wasn't even a campus pastor because we concluded that 2 of us were better than 1 of us. Okay, now that's a fundamental theological issue that I would encourage you to settle in your mind. I wish you would settle it today. I would suggest that from an Ephesians 4 ecclesiology, that you are never as good by yourself, generally. I shouldn't say never. You're generally never as good. You're generally never as good by yourself as when you do it together. Okay, this is a fundamental biblical principle. I know we all, especially pastors, we tend to think we're legends in our own mind, and we need to go up on the mountain and get the word from God and bring it down because we have Moses complexes. I'm just saying, from a New Testament perspective, I would encourage you to function in a team. You don't need to, you can recruit people out of your church. They're usually seasoned scripturally. They don't necessarily need to be, depends on your strengths and weaknesses in terms of team building. You always want to staff to your weakness. And so, you can recruit a person. By the way, always never man on woman, always man on man. But I would encourage you, once you get man on man, and recruit a woman. A woman in your sermon team will, stop you from saying stupid stuff. She'll stop you from, only preaching to the guys kind of stuff. She'll really help you understand women, okay? And she'll really help you. So I recruited Lisa right away. Plus, she's smarter than 10 of us together. Lisa, her undergraduate degree is in music. She's a lawyer. She was magna cum laude out of her undergrad. She was magna cum laude out of law school. She was the editor of her law review. She is a beast. She is an intellectual mind. She grew up Jehovah's Witness too, by the way. So she had Bible in her, just wrong, right? So, and I got her when she was a baby Christian. She ultimately married my executive pastor, who's going to replace me as the lead pastor in 2.5 years. His name's Robert. But back in the day, I just recruited her third. And then I recruited a couple other people in my church to be on my sermon team. Then I recruited another woman, and she's a licensed therapist. She's an MFT, and she's got a graduate degree in theology, and she's a beast. And if you could, this would be a perfect thing if I could help you catch it, is to get a therapist in your team, because a therapist also will help you quit saying stupid stuff. They'll help you to understand when you're talking about anxiety, or when you're talking about fear, or when you're talking about almost anything, that you tend to say it in a way that is, at least, this is just me, okay? I tended to say stuff in a way that was very arrivalistic. It was very much like, you just need to, stop doing this. And so to be honest, I was quite a legalist. As I reflect back on my preaching, I was very Pelagian. I was very Pharisaic, I guess you could say, in a lot of my theology. Yes, I had once upon a time translated the letter of Galatians, but it's easy in a pastoral slot to move away from grace and process and brokenness being normal. And you can start thinking you are all that in a $1.32, okay? So I just want to warn you, okay? Now today in my sermon team, I now pay Lisa to lead my team. Amy doesn't, but I've helped her build her practice. I got Amy, who's the therapist, I got her in her graduate degree of MFT. And so her benefit to her, because it's a lot of work to be in my team now. But anyway, her benefit is I built her practice, so whatever. And then all my campus pastors, okay? So we all function together. So we come up with the themes, we come up with the stories, we come up with the passages all together. The exegetical packet then now is developed really by all of us, but we share it in Logos. We do the sermon study benchmarks, and that's a part of our process. We do then a brainstorming meeting. This is 6 to 8 weeks out before the message is delivered, and if you flip the page over, then we come up with the team lead draft outlines, which is just super fun. Basically what we do between 6 and 7, 6 is like a meeting where all of the people, you've had to done the exegesis to be in the room, we all get in the room and we all like throw out what the Lord's speaking to us in the passage. It's like the most fun Bible study you could ever possibly be in. The educational quotient alone of the room is like many decades of formal theological training and life experience. So it's very fun, very fun. So we just talk about what's cool in the passage, outline ideas and stuff like that. And Lisa listens and types. She's the fastest typist you've ever seen in your life. And we throw it all up on a screen. We have Apple TV, and so we throw it up on the screen. So we're creating. We have a big whiteboard and all that. And then she basically brings back the outline to us, the number 7. She basically brings it back to us. And Carter, you help with this part, right? What is it you do right here? I'll repeat it on the mic, but.
Yeah, do a pass up the words.
Come up here for a second, will you?
For everybody else.
Yeah, come up here for a second. Just tell the room, remember you're on camera, so you got to be right here, and you got to speak into this, but also into this.
Yeah, so she writes the outline, and then we get to kind of wordsmith it, right? So she wants to make sure she's reflecting everybody's voice. So then we'll all go through and just kind of change wording in terms of what's going to go on the slides. I mean, when we're all presenting, obviously you personalize it, add your own stories, your own humor, your own intro, but we want to land on what's going to be the stuff that shows on slides or in the app or on a printout for notes. So we all kind of help wordsmith that.
Yeah, and then the next stage of the process is, so we come together, let's just describe week of, okay? Let's describe our week of process.
Yeah, so then the week that we are presenting it or working on it, even though we all helped write it, that was like 8 weeks ago. So I don't know if you started with I can't remember Monday when I just preached yesterday. So we're like, I know I worked on this like 8 or 10 weeks ago, but now I got to preach it this week, right? So you really have to get this week's in you. And that's when on our own, which we're working on for this Sunday, what are you going to do for an intro? What are you going to do for the conclusion? What are personal stories you're going to put in? I like to find where to put in humor and stuff.
Yeah, Carter is also a stand-up comedian. So he's the funniest guy amongst us.
Wow. Say something funny. I don't know. Sorry. So then we bring all those ideas. So every single week, who's ever preaching that week, we do just a 1-hour meeting and say, all right, well, let's talk through this week's sermon. And we start by, all right, any last changes we want to make to anything that's going to be on screen. So even though we already wordsmithed it, still remember another 8 weeks later, like, no, you know what, that I don't remember why we did that. It doesn't make sense. So we can even tweak that sort of last minute. And then we go around and say, what are you doing for an intro? And, everybody's real humble, teachable, and we'll say, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work, and Mike models that really well. He'll let us push, say, no, don't tell that story, go with this story.
Yeah, well, in fact, we call it bleeding. So we want to, in every message, we want you to bleed. We want you to tell your brokenness. How do you personally struggle with what you're talking about from Scripture?
Yeah, so we want a bleed moment in every sermon. Again, maybe humor, a story. And then we'll talk through what are you going to do for a conclusion, what's your landing point. So we really all have the freedom, even though we're preaching exegetically through the same passage, we may land in a different spot. I say, I want to drive home this application point because my beach campus really needs that. You'd say, well, I'm driving home this one, or I'm going to end with contemplative prayer exercise. So lots of freedom in there. And then
there's also a way we can steal from each other. Okay?
Yeah.
Exactly. Imagine having, 6 preachers in a room, and they're all telling what they're going to do. So, you can steal from them. I'm not that, how many of you are not that creative? I'm not that creative. Like, I need to steal, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun.
No, it's great when you walk in and you're like, I have no idea for an intro, honestly, and then we'll just kind of give you grace, and you can listen to 5 other ones then and pick your favorite, right? Pick which one resonates. So yeah, super cool way to do it. And then we do the sermon run through together.
Yeah, now this is on Thursday mornings. On Thursday mornings, so let's say this week Carter, and they try to rotate me through, okay, because I'm the old guy, whatever. So like this week I'll be with Carter, and so Thursday morning, literally live in the room from 9:30 to 11:30, he'll do his sermon for me. Like I'm in the room, and it's in a room with it's in a sanctuary, right? So the technology is in place. So you have to do your sermon for me, like as though you're doing it on a weekend, and you use your slides, everything, and then I critique you, and then I do the sermon, and then he critiques me, and you're really not allowed to say, "Oh, that was the most awesome sermon I've ever heard." Like you can't do that. Like I'll be mad at you right there, and. No, I mean, you know what I'm saying. We just like literally do. How many of you ever took preaching class? You all did this in preaching class. I say that if you don't literally do a run through with somebody else in the room who's going to actually give you feedback, your first run through is your first service. It just is.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to get used to because I'd never done that. And you got to have some thick skin, right? And it's a little like American Idol style. You're preaching in a giant empty room with someone taking notes the whole time you're preaching. And but if you know the guys love you and got your back. So yeah, I mean everyone just real humble, teachable, and it's really hard to get ready by Thursday morning. So my Wednesday nights are really late night. But here's what's awesome. Honestly, Friday, Saturday, I hardly touch it. Right, because I just got awesome feedback Thursday morning, tweak it a whole bunch Thursday afternoon. So I don't have to be one of the pastors up really late Saturday night because I'm not scrambling. I've already done it. Got really good feedback. So harder, but so worth it once you get there, I think.
Yeah, and the way it works is now Carter on his campus he has a Thursday night service, 2 Sunday morning services, and a Sunday night service. So he's a little bit different. So he has to do the critical run through, then literally that night preach it. So, and I also practice something, and I would encourage you guys to do this. So I have an iPhone, but I don't know what it would be on another kind of phone, but there's a way that you can record yourself. So I lay my phone on the table where I'm doing my run through, and then I'll record myself. And it's not very good quality, but I can hear it. And then what I do is I listen to myself at least one time before, in my case, Saturday night. And it's just a helpful way to get it in you. We try to be more noteless, We try to not have notes, per se. Thanks. Give Carter a hand. He's really awesome. Any question about our sermon team tool or process? Anything you guys want to ask me?
That's where you take the Christianese stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Sorry. That was the question. Yes. So when you do a run through with somebody, sometimes it's not able to be caught in a run through. We also do Facebook Live of all the campuses. So, but anyway, the problem is that again, like sometimes people will say things like, and again, I don't want to be judgmental. Okay, this is me. This is how we are. So like statements like, sorry, can I get an amen? When you tell people where to turn in their Bibles, and you don't tell them where to turn in their Bibles, you expect them to know where John is. When I became a Christ follower, it took me the longest time. They would say, turn to something. It took me several weeks. Like, turn to John 10. I'd look around the room for John. I thought John was in the room. Like you have to understand, especially us as Catholics generally, my parents are both dead. I got our family Catholic Bible. It's a big, thick Bible. It'll kill you if you dropped it on your foot, okay? It'll break your foot in 4 places. I had one, but we never read it. I never read the Bible, so I had no idea. I had no idea of what the Old Testament was, what the New Testament, I had no idea of anything. And I would dare say, and by the way, this is a huge issue in the church. The church is very, very post-biblically literate. We have a huge problem in the church in America, and that is, I'm talking Protestantism, that in Protestantism, we're becoming more and more biblically illiterate. It's like a weird thing in our culture. So So anyway, you catch them saying Christianese stuff, and I expect them to say it to me. Like if I'm saying something that's super Christianized, I gotta stop doing that, because it's immediately, if you wanna learn how to stop empowering your people to bring their friends who don't know anything, use Christianese. Because they'll very quickly stop inviting their friends, because it'll be embarrassing. It'll be very embarrassing to them. So they won't bring them, because it's like not friendly. So you got to catch it. And we can become our own worst enemies, especially Christian professionals. So you just have to watch it. You have these 2 pamphlets of Church Multiplication Network on the top of your stack. These are just a couple of things to help you, if you're not aware of what we do at Church Multiplication Network. This is such an amazing, CMN is such an amazing entity of church planting. Like last year, I forget how many, I think we planted 463 churches or something like that last year. We're on a clip to plant, I think it's 250 or something like that this year. In fact, Sunday was church plant weekend. It sort of was perfect, sort of lined up with our launch of our campus. But anyway, there is something, let me see something. Are you guys familiar with iwanttoplantachurch.com? If you're unfamiliar with that, write it down, iwanttoplantachurch.com. I'm not sure. Oh, it is on the front of this one that has orange lettering, iwanttoplantachurch.com. This is a wonderful tool. You don't have to be AG to use our stuff, by the way, though I think it would be helpful. I think this is a way to grab people who are kind of, people ask me all the time, Mike, why are you AG? There are a lot of reasons why I'm Assemblies of God. When I graduated from my undergrad, I'd already taken enough theology and exegetical work to have a basic exegetical theological problem with independence. Okay? There is a fundamental theological problem with independence. Again, this is straight up out of the book of Ephesians. And so I had to choose, I either had to start some structure of accountability, or I had to choose the best organization that I could personally find in which I could be me and yet thrive. And that's how I basically picked the Assemblies of God. And now we have CMN. It's like smoking. Like we are, I mean, I don't mean to be braggy, and it's not me, of course. It's Chris, it's Steve Pike before him, it's George Wood, it's now Doug. We are the best entity for church planting that there is. We have the best systems, the best training, coaching, support mechanisms. That's what these are. And iwanttoplantachurch.com is just a place you can steer anybody who's thinking of planting a church. And there's another thing. There's another thing that's not out yet. I just came back from my CMN lead team meeting, and it's called stepstomultiply.com. You might want to write this down, stepstomultiply.com. We're building a site that will help you know the steps to becoming a pack. Like let's say you're a church of 200 people and you really have a heart to to pack churches, to adopt churches or plant churches or whatever and multiply. This tool is going to be for you. It's going to launch around the time of our conference next year, the church, CMN conference, the church planting conference, but it's iwanttomultiply.com, and it's going to really be all the ways of multiplication and really articulate those for us and help us kind of get that stuff done. Let's go then now to the vision frame. This is Newbreak's vision frame. I only give you this to kind of cast a little bit of vision into you. This tool, so I went through the Oxano process of vision frame and vision clarification. This just has been incredibly helpful for us. On the right side of the frame is our mission statement. Our mission statement is threefold. It's connecting people with God through authentic relationships to serve communities, okay? All of those three legs are very, very important. Our essential strategy, we call it the 3 Bs. Begin the week with worship, and then belong to one another in a life group. We call small groups life groups in our context. And then become the church or be the church through serving, okay? We call it the 3 Bs. Everything aligns around those 3 strategies. Everything fits in those 3 buckets. And everything has to connect to the vision or the mission statement, okay? Our missions, our vision statement, we're actually still crafting it. It's really, we right now it's kind of insider talk, but we raise leaders to transform communities. That's what we do. That's our vision. Our vision is that wherever we go in the world, we're going to raise leaders that will transform their communities. Now, we do that through church planting and all kinds of different ways. You see our 4 values on the front page. Again, keep it accessible, do it together, make it better, give it away. That's how we do everything. And everybody has to align around it. And in a big multi-site, you have to keep everything crystal clear. You guys who are the Hope Church, you're just planting your first campus, you have to always have the clarity of your vision frame, or however you call it, because it can get wonky, especially in my contacts where they're live preachers. Okay? So you have to keep it crystal clear. Now, the other thing I just wanted to point out is what's called measures on here. We call them the measures or the marks of the disciples' journey. So underneath each part of our mission statement are 4 guiding marks of a disciple's journey. And you can see them articulated there. And every sermon that we ever preach has a mark embedded in it. And we rotate the marks around so that all the marks are getting covered in the weekend experiences. Now, we push hard on life groups that are sermon-based life groups. Now, we're actually leaning more and more into this because our sermons are our basic discipleship content from a curriculum standpoint. And so if I can build sermon-based life groups, it's going to take the sermon deeper in their life groups on the weekly basis. And then they're going to all have the marks like evenly, seated in their year, okay? Any questions about our vision frame? Yeah.
Is it counterproductive to have too many marks?
Yes. Will encouraged us to do it exactly as we did it. Will Mancini is the guy who coached us through our vision frame process. He's the person, Oksano, he's the head of Oksano. But yeah, you could have too many. What we discovered, especially on the values, I had so many stinking values. I had like 20 values. And when I first met Will, he's super nice. But it was funny because he had to confront me a bunch of times. Anyway, any other questions about our vision frame? Bill, do you guys do up here, we have a process in Southern Cal where we take them through a year-long process, and it's a church health issue, like where cohorts, is that what it's called? And people do who don't have this, they do that in that process. You went to the launch, right? Because in launch we do this with you. Like you had to, again, you're a multi-site, so it's a little bit different. But in our launch process, you have to come up with your mission statement at least, and some basic, meat on those bones. So in our CMN process, we'll literally take you through this kind of process, but it's free, which is a wonderful thing. Just for the sake of time, I want to kind of move a little bit. Okay, I'm going to give you my faith goal process. This is a really powerful tool in terms of how you do goals. My wife, who's a genius, she's an educator by profession, but she was also historically our life groups pastor. She was involved in education. She was an administrator in education. She helped launch one of the most famous charter school systems in America. And then she joined our staff, was our small groups pastor for many, many years, grew our small groups from like 10 to 150 or whatever. And she helps us a lot. She ultimately became our COO. But some time ago, she developed this sheet. This is basically a total hijack from SMART goals. How many of you have ever heard of SMART goals? Okay, so this is a hijack, but it's now called faith goals. So it's kind of cool because it's like a little bit more, I don't know, spiritual, if I could put it. And I just want to give it to you as a tool. This is a super helpful tool for you to use with your staff or your teams, and in terms of how to do goals and put timelines to them. Because you've got them kind of bullet line. They're focused. It's specific, attainable. It's possible and practical. Individualized. It's personal, trackable. Your goals need to have a deadline on it, and heartfelt. So this is our process of faith goals. Then you see the worksheet there that has blanks and stuff. And again, you guys can just totally copy this. And I don't even think you'd have to oh yeah, because you have our NB brand on it. So, you could, whatever. Yeah, white out. So the way we do goals is, so as a campus pastor, you go to all of your team, and it wouldn't matter. You could apply this in a church of 50 or 5,000, it would work the same. So you go to your team, whatever that looks like, and you have them come up with their faith goals around their area of ministry. So like you do lighting, is it? Lighting and tech stuff, right? So, you're probably mentoring people to do it, right? You always need to be doing 2 Timothy 2:2, right? You always need to have somebody behind you. So whatever, you go to them, and you could do it together if they've never done it before. You could do it together, or you could just have them do it, and then they bring it to you. You're the facilitator of the process, and so then you collaborate together, and you come up with your goals collectively. And those goals all kind of roll up into this, ever-increasing kind of faith goal system. Once a year, our campus pastors, we go away for a few days, and we all share our faith goals together, so we can, pray for each other and encourage each other and all that. And then I meet with the board basically for their retreat, and I get financial permission to do it all, and that's kind of how we roll. We do this in, kind of now through like October, and then have our retreat, and then we know what we're going to do in fiscal 2019. Anyway, any questions about the faith goal tool? You can totally just take it and steal it. It's very, very helpful because in ministry, one of the greatest issues you and I face is depression. This is why our suicide rates are high, our alcoholism rates are high. This is why I don't know if you're familiar as we are in SoCal, but we just had a young pastor commit suicide. He's a friend of one of our staff. This happens all over America. I would suggest that part of why, there are two real good reasons why we have all the kinds of issues like this. One is a lack of camaraderie, a lack of loving each other, a lack of team. We tend to silo. We don't want to tell anybody we're sucking wind because, it's embarrassing or they'll judge us or whatever. So there's a basic lack of authenticity among us, and Bill and his team works hard to help you guys. I'm super proud of you for being here. Whenever I come into a room like this, I always think about who's not here and why. Who's not here, why? Because the why is very important. Simon Sinek taught us that in the YouTube, right? But the why, what's going on? It could be they're on vacation. It could be they're scared. It could be they're lonely. It could be they're depressed. It could be they're whatever. They're discouraged. And so I believe, number one, you have to build authenticity. You have to build this. You have to build what you're doing. You have to build circles. Secondly, one of the things in ministry it was very hard for me to adjust to was the lack of specificity. How do I know when I'm winning? Where are the wins? And how many of you tend to be hard on yourself? I tend to be hard on myself. See, I can kind of pick out my losses. Oh, Joe and Susie, they told me last weekend they're leaving. And, they're going to this other church because they have an autistic kid, and they do better with autistic kids. And they love me, but they're leaving. I've been discipling them for years. They're givers. They didn't tithe when they first came. Now they're tithers. He makes $100,000 a year. I'm going to lose $10,000 in a second. He's a leader in my kids' ministry. I'm going to lose a leader. I'm going to lose capital. I'm going to lose influence. And I'm going to lose their kid who I love, that I just found out that I kind of am pathetic at because I don't do autistic kids. I have an autistic grandson. See how easy it is? I can die right there. Everything I just told you, by the way, is true except the names. They're not Joe and Susie. Their family income's actually about $150,000. So I'll lose $15,000. Plus they give to Kingdom Builders. I don't really know how much I'll lose. Kingdom Builders is our way of raising missions money and church planting projects like your money pit. It's how we try to raise funds. I just spent $250,000 to launch Hillcrest because I hired Isaac ahead of time, and I don't pay him what he needs to be paid, but I pay him, and he did it. And so I lost his salary, and I had to remodel the facility, and I had to do a lot of stuff. So it's cost me $250,000 to plant that campus. But that's how we do it. But I'm going to lose Joe and Susie. So I got to replace them, you know. And it's easy to do. So and I think faith goals will really help us. If you can define your wins and kind of put them in a timely manner, an attainable manner, it'll really be helpful. This leadership pathway is not correct. They didn't give it all to you, so shine that. Having said that, I would encourage you to develop a leadership pathway. Like, how do you develop? What are the steps that I can become a leader? You know, first step is lead yourself, right? Second step is learning how to lead others. And then, third step is ultimately learning to lead leaders. So we have a much more developed thing. That is a current project, though, that we're working on. This next thing, this is we use 3D coaching. Carter, do you remember the name of the book? Isn't it called 3D coaching?
I think so.
It's a guy out of Willow Creek. So we work with Sam Farina, by the way, who's a wonderful resource to you in the Assemblies of God. He's the head of coaching in America. So we have brought all of our pastors and directors through a coaching process, a training process. My goal with all of us, personally, my goal is to become a better coach. Secondarily, I want to raise coaches. And coaches is just another word for kind of a sophisticated disciple maker. So anyway, we use the 3D model. So whenever I meet with somebody, I'm always after discovering, developing, and dreaming. So I want to discover, okay, what's going on in your life? How's your marriage? How's your dating life? Whatever. And then I kind of do this even in a restaurant with a server. It's sort of a way to share your faith, quite frankly. Anyway, then the develop part, you're going to kind of tell me what you need and then I'm going to help you figure it out. Like, I'm going to help you figure out how you're going to develop to, become a better kids pastor or be a better hospitality leader or whatever, life group leader, whatever you are. I'm going to develop you. That's what pastors do, right? That's what we are supposed to be, equipping the people in Ephesians 4 to do this stuff. It's just a way to do it. Discover, develop, dream. And then I want to know your dreams. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's a dream that you have in your life? About your family, about your ministry, about your career? This is a tremendous tool for you how many of you have corporate leaders in your church? Okay. This is a tremendous tool for you to have conversation with them about how to get into their life. They're the most lonely people in your church, by the way. Your top givers, your top 20% of your givers are the most lonely people, generally speaking, in your church, because they're more wealthy, and it's awkward for them in church. They just don't quite know. Now, some of them are total power brokers, and you kind of have to crack those guys at the knees. You got to be careful of them. But largely, high-level leaders kind of feel isolated in church. And this would be a very helpful tool to you to help unpack their loneliness and help them to, figure out what they need. And that's the discover part and the dream. Like, what are their dreams? They want to be involved in ministry. They just don't know how. They generally won't get involved in kids ministry unless you're really good at casting that vision. Now, the thing I gave you next is the campus. Wait, didn't I? Oh, I did do it. On the other side of the 3D coaching this is literally what I email Carter, okay? The other side of this is what I email Carter. So you could use this, you'd have to tweak it a bit. So if you're how many of you are pastors, like you're the lead pastor of your church? Raise your hands. Okay. Okay, so you could literally email this to your let's say your kids volunteer leader or your worship volunteer leader, whoever. You could email this to them, and then they email it back to you, and you cut it and paste it into your 3D model. I cut and paste mine in the develop part. So develop becomes exactly what they've emailed me. So they email me this ahead of time. So then I get it, and I cut it and paste it in my notes with regard to the meeting under develop, and then I'm actually scratching where they itch. Do you get the power of that? This is totally not top down. This is totally flat and wide, which is my basic philosophy of ministry. So I'm scratching their itch. Now I know ahead of time what their stats are. I know where they're at. I know where they were. I know where they are. I know where they need to be. I already know their faith goals. But I kind of make them talk to me about how they're doing with their own faith goals. Do you see how freeing this is from an oversight perspective? I don't know if you've ever had many people that are your direct reports and stuff, but this is tremendously liberating. You don't have to tell them. Let them tell you. It's totally liberating. Just this one last thing. Okay, it's 2 pages and it's stapled together, and it's got kind of bronze colors. It's called Campus Reflection. This is a tool that I developed because when I go and visit one of the campuses, I wanted to have objective criteria by which I evaluated the experience on the weekend. And so I emailed this to the campus that I'm going to go do this at, and then so they know how to get an A. This is super important, you guys. They know how to get an A. Like if you are overseeing kids ministry, like you're the associate pastor or something, and part of your ministry description is kids. And so if you're going to show up, you need to tell them ahead of time, A, that you're going to show up, B, what's the win? Like when you come in, what are you going to look at? What are you going to grade? What are you going to observe? What are you going to analyze? And then you're showing them the win. Then when you meet with them and their team, if you do it that way, that's how I do it. I meet with the campus pastor and their whole team in a debrief afterwards. It's a reflection. And they already are telling me all this stuff, right? And so then I'm giving them my observations. And you always want to do sandwich. You want to do wonderful things, stuff you need to work on, and how wonderful they are. Don't ever forget the sandwich. You're an awesome youth pastor. You're rocking it. You're so amazing. I saw all of this, this, and this. Now, here's some stuff that I saw that you need to work on. A, B, C. And then, but you're so awesome. I believe in you. You're amazing. You're going to crush it. See? It's sandwich. And I would encourage you to use the 3D. It's super simple, and it's been very, very effective for us. Any last kind of questions you might have?
Some of your personal disciplines to keep positive with all these people?
Personal disciplines to keep positive. I am pretty gnarly in my devotional life. Okay, so like I'm very, very consistent because I will lose the fruit of the Spirit in an hour. So I can become very aggressive. I mean, I can just become gnarly. You could ask Carter. I can become gnarly in a day. I just need to pray a lot. So I have to have my devotions. We roll in such a way as campus pastors. This is why I would personally, and I don't know how many of you are PAC and how many of you aren't PAC, but however you want to scale it, like I personally would never want to ever pastor a church again that's not a PAC church. And my guys, we roll together. So we have fun together. We try to love each other. We're not perfect at this. We have to work at this all the time, but we really try to help each other. And like, they have permission to come to me and say to me, "Hey, Mike, you seem like you're like whatever, mad or intense." I say it this way: I know you all have the joy of the Lord in your life because you're followers of Jesus, but you need to tell your face. So they have permission to tell that to me and ask me. Like the Discover, Develop, Dream. There's reciprocity there. So I do it like that. One of the ways I do it too is by giving it away. Like even personally, like Teresa and I are very generous. Like we love to give money. So I tithed before I even knew what tithing was. That just made sense to me as by the way, just another FYI, especially those of you who grew up in the church and are super awkward about generosity development. Unchurched people, we perceive ourselves to be quite generous as a rule. we're not necessarily, but we perceive ourselves this way. And we actually want you to help us know what that looks like. You have to do that wisely and carefully. But part of it is like giving money to people. So like I'm very involved in our network, and I'm very involved with church planters. I like to give church planters money, not just church money, but my money. So Teresa and I will give, like we budget it. We actually, before 2019, we talk about how much money we're going to give away in 2019. And it's a spiritual exercise. And so then we budget it. So we have tithes, then we have kingdom builders, and then we have money. And so it helps me when I meet with you, like I'm kind of known for it. Like my students on my campus, they know that if they're going to do a missions trip, they can ask me personally. So I like that. I like to do outreaches, what Carter's going to talk about. Outreaches save my soul. It's not that I don't like Christians, I love Christians. But I need non-saved people around me all the time, and I need friends who are not saved. I need friends who don't even know anything about church. Like, I need them. Now, I need to give the gospel to them, but I need them. So I don't know. I do it like that. I get outside of Newbreak a lot, like outside of it, and talk to other pastors and help other pastors. That's very life-giving to me. But it is hard. I mean, I've been in the ministry full-time since 1980. How many of you weren't born in 1980? Raise your hands. Yeah, like half of the room. So literally, I've been in the ministry a long time. And, my exit strategy, that's another whole thing. I am a big believer in succession strategies. So I have 2.5 years in this role. I'll be 67 and a half in 2.5 years. Robert, who's our executive pastor and our Scripps campus pastor, is going to become me. He'll become me. Actually, Jen, his wife, and this other girl, Rachel, are going to likely become what in a normal world you would call executive pastors. It looks, we're developing them to see if they can do it. But then, so that's how we are. I am not necessarily a fan of you retire, they buy you a car, they send you to Israel, and then they form a pulpit committee to go on a search to find a pastor. I know that's a lot of our polity is that way. You'll just have to work that out for yourselves, how that works. But so I'm a developer. Like I want that person in place, way out ahead. Like everybody knows already, like in our staff certainly, they all know Robert's going to become me. We literally work on that now. Carter would tell you, like we literally work on it, like where Robert says stuff all the time. I let him lead, and I'm still there. So, good question though. Thanks so much for letting me be with you guys. God bless you.